When a shy waitress meets the eyes of a deaf customer across a crowded cafe, neither realizes they're about to change each other's lives forever. But the billionaire CEO, watching from the shadows, has plans that could destroy them both. But no one imagined what would come next. Like, comment, and share to guarantee we meet again. Let's start the tale. The morning rush at Harmony Cafe buzzed with its usual chaos. Steaming espresso machines, clattering cups, hurried conversations. But Lena Evans had learned to navigate the noise with grace that belied her 19 years. Her petite frame moved efficiently between tables, dark hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, brown eyes scanning the room for anyone who needed her help. Most people saw just another college student working to pay her bills. But Lena carried herself with a quiet dignity that even the rudest customers couldn't help but soften to. She noticed him immediately, the young man who always sat at table 7 by the window. Around 25, gentle features, kind eyes, the kind that seemed to hold stories she longed to hear. He dressed simply but neatly, always ordering the same thing, black coffee and a blueberry muffin. What made him special wasn't his order, but the way he communicated. Lena approached his table with practiced ease, her hands already forming the signs she'd learned just for him. "Good morning, Ryan. The usual today?" Ryan's face lit up with that same look, surprise and gratitude, as if he still couldn't believe someone had taken the time to learn his language. "Yes, please. Thank you for always being so kind, Lena." She smiled warmly and signed back, "Everyone deserves to feel welcome." What Lena didn't know was that someone else was watching, from the corner booth, eyes hidden behind a laptop screen. Adrian Hayes, 33 years old, worth more than most small countries, sat silently in that corner, utterly captivated by what he saw. The heir to Hayes Industries had seen countless displays of fake kindness in his world. The boardrooms, the cocktail parties, the endless handshakes that meant nothing. But this was different, authentic, real. Adrian had been coming to this small cafe for 3 weeks now. At first it was just the coffee, then it was her. He found himself timing his visits to match Lena's shifts, telling himself it was just curiosity. After all, in his world of cold contracts and polite deceit, genuine warmth was a rarity. He watched as Lena returned with Ryan's order, noticing how her entire demeanor brightened when she signed. Her movements were fluid, confident, not the hesitant gestures of someone who'd memorized a few phrases, but the effortless rhythm of someone truly fluent. "How was your job interview yesterday?" She signed as she set down his coffee. Ryan's eyes lit up. "It went well. They wanted someone who's deaf for their new accessibility program. Finally, being different is an advantage." Lena smiled. "That's wonderful. I'm proud of you." Adrian found himself leaning forward, trying to read their hands, catching fragments enough to understand. They were talking about work, about hope, about kindness. Then it happened. As Lena turned to leave Ryan's table, she collided directly with Adrian, who'd been too absorbed in watching her to notice her approaching. His laptop hit the floor. Hot coffee splashed across his custom Italian suit. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," Lena gasped, grabbing napkins from the counter. "I didn't see you there. Let me help." Adrian looked down at his ruined jacket. worth more than Lena probably made in 3 months. He felt irritation rise, then fade, when he saw her genuinely distressed face. "It's fine," he said, softer than he intended. "Accidents happen." "No, it's not fine. This looks expensive, and I should have been more careful. Please let me pay for the cleaning bill." Her voice trembled with embarrassment and something deeper, a hint of loss. Adrian paused, studying her face. Up close, he could see exhaustion around her eyes, the uniform slightly too big, as if she'd lost weight recently. But there was also strength there, a refusal to be broken by life. "What's your name?" he asked. "Lena." "Lena Evans." "I'm Adrian," he replied, making a decision he didn't yet understand. "How about, instead of worrying about dry cleaning, you let me buy you coffee sometime? When you're not working?" Lena blinked. "You want coffee? With the waitress who just ruined your suit?" "No," he smiled. "I want coffee with the woman who learned sign language to make a customer feel welcome." A blush spread across her cheeks then, quickly, a flicker of panic. "I don't really date customers," she said carefully. "Company policy." "Is it really company policy, or are you just being polite?" Lena bit her lip, torn. "It's complicated." "Oh, most interesting things are." Before she could respond, her manager's voice cut across the cafe. "Evans, table 12 is still waiting for their order." "I have to go," Lena said quickly, but Adrian noticed she didn't say no. "I'll be here tomorrow," he called after her. "Same time." As Lena hurried away, Adrian bent to pick up his laptop, his mind racing. There was more to Lena Evans than met the eye, the fluency, the restraint, the flash of fear when he'd asked her out. She wasn't just a kind waitress, she was someone guarding a story. What Adrian didn't know was that across the cafe, Ryan Cole had seen everything. He'd noticed Lena's hands trembling slightly when Adrian approached. He'd seen the brief tension in her shoulders. He pulled out his phone and typed, "That guy in the expensive suit, you okay? You looked uncomfortable." During a lull, Lena glanced down and replied, "Just a customer, nothing to worry about." But even as she served her next table, she couldn't shake the feeling that Adrian Hayes, yes, she'd glimpsed the name on his credit card, was going to complicate her carefully controlled life in ways she wasn't prepared for. Her instincts were right, because Lena Evans had grown up in a world where every interaction could be dangerous. After her parents died in a chemical spill when she was 12, she'd learned to read people fast to survive. 7 years in foster care had taught her that charm often hid manipulation, that wealthy men who smiled kindly usually wanted something in return. But there had been something different in Adrian's eyes. Not pity, not hunger, just curiosity. And that terrified her more than hate ever could. The next morning, Adrian arrived at Harmony Cafe 30 minutes earlier than usual. He'd spent the night researching the small place, its local ownership, its reputation for treating employees well, and the fact that Lena Evans worked mornings, Tuesday through Saturday. Today he chose a different table, one with a clear view of the entire room. He opened his laptop, but didn't see a single word. When Lena emerged from the kitchen, tying her apron with precise movements, the morning light caught her hair, and for a moment the world seemed to pause. Her smile was professional but guarded. "Good morning. Coffee to start?" "Please," Adrian replied, then softly added, About yesterday. My fault, she interrupted, flustered. I forgot about your suit. Did the dry cleaner say how much? Lena. His tone was gentle but firm. I told you, it's fine. I was hoping we could talk about something else. She poured his coffee with steady hands, though he noticed the tightness in her shoulders. I'm working. I know. But you get breaks, right? Yes. But, Lena. A familiar voice cut through the noise. Ryan Cole had just walked in, heading for his usual table by the window. Instantly, Lena's demeanor changed. Her shoulders relaxed. She smiled, for real. Excuse me, she said to Adrian. I need to take care of a regular. Adrian watched as she and Ryan communicated in sign language with a fluid grace. It was beautiful, like a conversation in motion. You look tired, Ryan signed. Everything okay? Just busy, Lena replied, forcing a smile. Are you sure? You seemed stressed yesterday. After that guy spilled coffee. It's nothing I can't handle. Ryan followed her gaze toward Adrian's table, his expression growing protective. Want me to stay longer today? Make sure he doesn't bother you? Lena shook her head. He seems harmless enough. Just persistent. The persistent ones, Ryan signed, are the ones you watch out for. She nodded, appreciating his concern. I'll be careful. Then she turned toward the kitchen. Adrian made a decision. He stood, crossed the room, and approached Ryan's table. Excuse me, he said, slowly, enunciating so Ryan could read his lips and signing a few basic words as well. I'm Adrian. I believe we have a mutual friend, Lena. Ryan's expression was neutral. Friend might be a strong word, he signed. She's very professional. She learned sign language for you, Adrian said. She learned it because she's a good person who believes everyone deserves to feel welcome, Ryan replied, his tone sharp. Lena works hard. She doesn't need complications. Adrian sat down without being invited, intrigued. What kind of complications are you worried about? The kind that come from wealthy men who think money can buy them anything. How do you know I'm wealthy? Ryan gestured the watch, the tailored suit, the posture. Lucky guess. Adrian chuckled softly. You care about her. She's one of the few people who treats me like a human being, not a disability with legs. So yes, I care. I'm not trying to hurt her. Men like you rarely try, Ryan signed. You just do, eventually. Before Adrian could reply, Lena returned with Ryan's coffee, eyes darting between them. Everything okay? She signed. Just getting acquainted with your admirer, Ryan answered smoothly. Lena looked at Adrian, surprised. You know sign language? A little. I'm rusty. She blinked, then smiled faintly. Well, this is unexpected. Ryan was just telling me how much he values your friendship, Adrian said, and how protective he is of the people he cares about. Lena nodded. Ryan's been coming here for 8 months. He's one of the few reasons this job feels meaningful. Why? Adrian asked, genuinely curious. At first, he was so isolated. Other servers would just point at the menu or speak louder as if that would help. It felt wrong. Everyone deserves to be heard, even if they can't hear. Her voice was gentle but strong. Adrian felt something stir in his chest. In his world, people learn skills for profit, for status, never for kindness. That's remarkable, he said. It's basic human decency, Lena replied, cheeks flushing. I like this one better when he's not trying to impress you. Ryan signed with a smirk. Lena laughed. What did he say? Adrian asked. Nothing important, she said, eyes sparkling. I said she's terrible at lying in any language, Ryan added aloud. I am not, Lena protested. You're blushing. I don't blush. Adrian watched them banter, this relaxed version of Lena he'd never seen. Warm, teasing, alive. It made him want to know what had made her so careful, so guarded. Lena, her manager called from across the room. Your break starts in 10 minutes. Adrian saw his chance. How about that coffee conversation now? Lena hesitated, glancing between him and Ryan. I usually spend my break helping Ryan practice for interviews. I don't mind. Postponing, Ryan signed, grinning. I got the job yesterday, remember? You did, Lena beamed. Ryan nodded seriously. You've spent months helping everyone else. Maybe it's time to do something for yourself. Adrian watched her wrestle with the decision. Finally, she sighed. 15 minutes. That's all. That's all I need, Adrian said, though he knew 15 minutes would barely scratch the surface of Lena Evans. She led him to a small corner table away from the morning rush. A quiet pocket of sunlight and nervous energy. She brought a cup of tea, chamomile, and sat across from him with the poise of someone ready to run if needed. So, she said, hands wrapped around the mug, what did you want to talk about? Adrian studied her for a moment, then smiled faintly. Honestly, I'm not sure where to start. Yesterday, you seemed wary. I wanted to understand why. I'm wary of most customers who ask me out. Most? You'd be surprised how many think waitresses are part of the service charge. Adrian winced. I can see how that would get old. It's part of the job. Her voice was matter of fact, but he heard the weariness beneath it. You shouldn't have to deal with that. Her eyes lifted, surprised by his sincerity. Most people don't see it that way. Most people are wrong. He leaned forward slightly. Tell me about the sign language. How did you learn it so well? Lena's expression softened. My parents were both deaf educators before they died. I see, Adrian said quietly. I'm sorry. It was a long time ago. She sipped her tea, trying to change the subject. What about you? Why did you learn to sign? College requirement at first, but I've always been interested in communication barriers. It helps in business. He paused. Though I'm nowhere near as fluent as you. It takes practice, Lena said gently. And it helps to have someone patient to learn with. Like Ryan. She nodded. When he first came here, I could see his frustration. It reminded me of what? Of watching my parents navigate a world that wasn't built for them. Adrian studied her face, the quiet pain beneath her strength. They sound remarkable. They were. They believed everyone deserved dignity. A voice, even if that voice was silent to others. Is that why you became a waitress? Adrian asked softly. To help people, Lena laughed, a little bitterly. I became a waitress because I aged out of foster care with no family, no money, and no degree. Not everyone gets to choose their path for noble reasons. Adrian looked down, ashamed of his assumption. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. It's fine. You wouldn't be the first person to romanticize poverty. Her tone was sharp, but not cruel. People like to think We're poor because we want to learn life lessons or build character. People like me, you mean? Lena met his eyes. Yes, people like you. He didn't flinch. You're right. I've never had to worry about money, never had to choose between dreams and survival. At least you admit it. Does that count for anything? It's a start. Silence fell between them. Not awkward, just heavy. Adrian watched the way Lena's eyes flicked to every corner of the room, every door, every potential exit. It was the behavior of someone who'd learned that safety was never guaranteed. Finally, he spoke. Can I ask you something? You can ask. What really happened to your parents' accident? Her hand froze on her cup. What kind of question is that? The kind that comes from someone who grew up around corporate accidents and legal settlements. You mentioned your dad had respiratory problems from an industrial incident. That's specific. Lena was quiet for a long moment. Then, barely above a whisper, my father was an environmental inspector. He tried to blow the whistle on a company cutting safety corners. They fired him, smeared him. Then one day, he and my mum died in a car accident. Adrian's blood ran cold. What company? She stood suddenly pale. I have to get back to work. Lena. No. Her voice was steady now. Some conversations are too dangerous to finish. She walked away, leaving him alone at the table, heart pounding, mind racing. Adrian sat alone, his coffee untouched. Chemical exposure, environmental violations, a whistleblower. The words echoed in his mind. He pulled out his phone and searched quietly industrial accidents, environmental inspectors, Riverside County. The results made his blood run cold. Daniel Evans, environmental safety inspector, and his wife, Dr. Grace Evans, had died 7 years ago in a single car accident. Daniel had been investigating safety violations at Hayes Industries chemical plant in Riverside County. Adrian stared at the screen, his chest tightening. Her parents hadn't died in an accident. They died trying to hold his family's company accountable, and Lena Evans knew exactly who he was. As he watched her move gracefully through the cafe, still smiling politely at customers, it all made sense, the caution, the fear, the walls. She wasn't just wary of wealth. She was protecting herself from the very family that had destroyed hers. Adrian's heart pounded. He could walk away, pretend he never met her, or he could face the truth. He spent the rest of that day in his office, but his mind wasn't on quarterly reports or mergers. Every few minutes, he reopened old archives, searching for the truth. No. Daniel Evans was more than an inspector. He'd been a crusader. Adrian found old interviews where Daniel spoke passionately about corporate accountability. In one clip, Daniel stood outside the Riverside facility. They're ignoring safety protocols that endanger entire communities. The video was dated 3 weeks before his death. Adrian's hands shook as he logged into the company's internal database. He had full access after all. He was heir to the empire. He opened the legal archives. 17 violation reports, all dismissed, all buried. In the margin of one legal brief, his father's handwriting, "Make this inspector go away, whatever it takes." The room spun. Adrian pressed his palms to the desk, breathing hard. Had his father ordered it? Or had the company simply turned a blind eye, Either way, Daniel Evans had died because Hayes Industries valued profit over lives. And now, Adrian was falling in love with the daughter of the man his family destroyed. His phone buzzed. A message from his father, Charles Hayes. Board meeting moved to 4. Don't be late. Adrian stared at it. For the first time in his life, he dreaded seeing his father. The board meeting began as usual. Quarterly projections, expansion plans, safe numbers. Charles Hayes commanded the room effortlessly, silver hair, perfect suit, the calm authority of a man who had never faced consequences. The Riverside facility is performing above expectations, Charles announced proudly. Environmental compliance costs are down 18% from last year. Adrian's jaw tightened. He knew why. Compliance costs were down because there was no one left to report violations. Daniel Evans was dead. After the meeting, Adrian stayed behind. "Dad," he said quietly, "I need to ask you about something." Charles looked up, amused. "Sounds serious." "The Riverside facility." 7 years ago, Charles frowned. "That's ancient history. Why bring it up now?" "Because I don't think it's as resolved as you pretend." His father's expression hardened. "Adrian, you're heir to a multi-billion-dollar company. You don't have the luxury of guilt over every unfortunate coincidence." "Coincidence?" Adrian's voice rose. "A man died, Dad. A man trying to expose our violations." Charles slammed a folder shut. He was trying to destroy this company with frivolous accusations. His death was tragic, but unrelated. "He wasn't our employee," Adrian snapped. "Same difference," Charles said coldly. "Listen, son. This business isn't for the squeamish. Sometimes good people get hurt. That's the price of progress." Adrian stared at him. "What about Daniel Evans's family? His daughter?" "We settled. Generously," Charles said flatly. "The girl got $12,000. More than enough if she's smart." Adrian froze. $12,000. That's what you think her father's life was worth? Charles narrowed his eyes. "How do you know that number?" Adrian didn't answer. He couldn't. Not without screaming. That night, he sat in his penthouse, whiskey untouched, staring at the city lights. Everything he'd inherited, the wealth, the prestige, the future waiting for him, was built on other people's graves. He scrolled to Lena's number. He'd found it through the cafe's employee directory. His thumb hovered over the call button, then dropped. What could he say? How do you apologize for being born into a family of killers? The next morning, Adrian didn't go to Harmony Cafe. He drove to Riverside County instead, to the small cemetery on the hill. The headstones were modest. Daniel Evans, Environmental Safety Inspector. Dr. Grace Evans, Deaf Education Specialist. Beneath them, the words, "They fought for a better world." Adrian knelt in the grass, his expensive suit gathering dirt and dew. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so sorry for what my family did. I'll make it right. I swear I will." A voice behind him made him freeze. "Make what right?" He turned. Lena stood at the path, holding white roses and baby's breath. Her face pale, her eyes burning with anger. "Lena." She stepped closer. every movement controlled. It's the anniversary of their deaths. I come here every year. Why are you here? Adrian's mouth went dry. I found out about the connection between our families. When? Yesterday. She walked past him, kneeling to place the flowers. How long have you known who I am? I didn't. Not until you mentioned the industrial accident. So when you asked me out, when you said I was remarkable, you had no idea your family killed my parents. I swear I didn't. She stood, eyes locked on his. But you know now. Yes. Then you're here because you feel guilty. He shook his head. I'm here because I love you, and I can't live knowing my family destroyed yours. Lena laughed, once sharp, bitter. You're in love with me? That's rich. Do you know what I was doing before I met you? She said, voice shaking. I was planning to get close to Hayes Industries, apply for an internship, work my way up, gather evidence, finish what my father started. Adrian's heart dropped. You were planning to infiltrate my family's company. I was planning to bring you down, she said flatly. All of you. For 7 years I've been preparing for it, studying corporate law, environmental policy, journalism. Revenge was all I had left. She turned away, tears in her voice. Then I met you, and for 3 stupid days I forgot why I hated you. Lena, please, let me make this right. How? Are you going to bring my parents back? Erase the nightmares? Undo 7 years of pain? I can change the company, implement the safety standards your father fought for, make sure it never happens again. And what about justice? He hesitated. What would justice look like to you? Her voice cracked. I want my father's work to mean something. I want those responsible to face consequences. I want Hayes Industries to admit what they did. My father will never admit it, Adrian said quietly. But I can. What good does that do? You're right, I wasn't in charge then, but I will be soon. And when I am, I'll tell the truth. Lena searched his face for lies. Why would you destroy your own family's name? Because some things matter more than reputation, more than money. He looked straight into her eyes. You matter more. She shook her head, tears falling. I'm not your redemption story. I know. You're the strongest person I've ever met. She glared at him, her voice trembling. I hate that I fell in love with you. I hate that knowing who you are doesn't make it stop. Adrian's heart broke. You fell in love with me? I fell in love with who I thought you were. Someone who cared about justice. Someone who might be different. I am that man, he said, desperate. I want to be that man. Wanting isn't enough. Then tell me what is. Tell me how to prove it. Walk away from Hayes Industries. Give up your inheritance. Choose justice over money. Adrian didn't hesitate. Done. Lena blinked, stunned. You don't understand. That company is your life. My life up until now was built on suffering. I want a new one. One I can live with. One where I deserve someone like you. She looked at him, eyes wet but steady. This doesn't fix anything. It doesn't bring them back. I know, and it doesn't mean I forgive your father. I wouldn't ask you to. Lena's voice softened. But if you really mean it, if you really walk away for justice, it's a start. Adrian reached out, offering his hand. Slow, open, human. Lena hesitated. Then she took it. The next morning, the Hayes Industries board meeting was supposed to be routine, quarterly reviews, budgets, projections, the same polished dance of power and numbers. But today, it would become the day everything changed. Adrian sat at the long mahogany table, flanked by executives who'd known him since childhood. They still saw the obedient heir, not the man who had spent all night deciding to burn the empire down. Charles Hayes sat at the head of the table, calm, confident, papers neatly stacked before him. "Let's begin," he said. But Adrian stood. "Before we start the reports," he said evenly, "I have something I need to share." His father looked up, mildly annoyed. "Adrian, this isn't the time." "It's exactly the time." Adrian opened a folder. It was thick with papers, 7 years' worth of buried reports, suppressed investigations, and internal memos. "I've spent the past week reviewing our environmental compliance records," Adrian began, "especially the Riverside facility." The room fell silent. Executives shifted uncomfortably. Some avoided eye contact. "I've discovered a pattern," he continued, "of ignored safety violations, of whistleblowers intimidated, of profits prioritized over lives." His voice deepened, calm but cutting. 7 years ago, an environmental inspector named Daniel Evans died in a car accident. After filing 17 violation reports against our Riverside plant. Charles's voice sharpened. "Adrian, you're treading on dangerous ground." "No, Dad. For the first time in my life, I'm standing on solid ground." Adrian's gaze swept the room. Daniel Evans left behind a wife and a 12-year-old daughter. The settlement this company gave them was $12,000. Melissa Grant, one of the board members, cleared her throat nervously. "Adrian, these were complex legal matters handled appropriately," he interrupted. "We spent more money fighting Evans's reports than it would have cost to fix the problems." He turned to his father. "We destroyed a man's reputation to protect quarterly profits." Charles rose slowly, his face flushed with anger. "That's enough. You have no idea how business works." "I understand perfectly," Adrian said coldly. "I understand that every luxury I've ever had was built on someone else's suffering." The room murmured in disbelief. Executives whispered to one another, some looking terrified, others disgusted. Adrian's next words silenced them. "I'm resigning from the board, effective immediately. I'm divesting all of my shares and liquidating my trust fund. The money will go to compensate the families who suffered from our negligence, starting with the Evans family." Charles went pale. "You ungrateful fool." "I'm grateful," Adrian said. "Grateful I learned the truth before I became complicit. This is about a woman, isn't it?" Charles's voice turned cold. "Dangerous. You've let some waitress turn you against your own blood." Adrian's fists clenched. "Her name is Lena Evans. She's Daniel Evans's daughter, and she's the most honest person I've ever met. She could never love someone who profits from her father's death." The room went dead silent. Charles stared at his son as if seeing him for the first time. "Walk out that door," he said quietly, "and you're no longer my son. You'll have nothing, no money, no future." Adrian looked straight at him. "Then I'll have something you've never had. Integrity." He gathered his papers and walked toward the door. Charles's final words followed him like a curse. "She'll never love you," You're still a Hayes. Adrian stopped, turned back once. Maybe, but at least I'll deserve her hatred honestly, instead of living a lie. 20 minutes later, he stood outside Harmony Cafe, watching through the glass. Inside, Lena was serving Ryan his usual coffee. She laughed at something he signed, her smile soft, real. For a moment, Adrian almost lost his nerve. What if his father was right? What if she could never forgive him? Then Lena looked up. Their eyes met. Something in her expression changed. Not love, not yet, but possibility. She said a few words to her manager, then came outside. "How did it go?" she asked carefully. "I'm officially no longer heir to Hayes Industries," Adrian said. "My father's disowned me. The board thinks I've lost my mind. And I'm going to be living off savings until I figure out what comes next." Lena studied his face, searching for resentment, regret. Instead, she saw relief. "Are you okay?" she asked softly. He laughed once. "I think I'm better than I've ever been. For the first time in my life, I don't have to pretend that what we did was justified. What happens now? Now I keep my promises. I'm meeting with attorneys this afternoon to set up a foundation for environmental justice. Your father's reports will be published in full, along with evidence of every cover-up I can find. And the Evans family will receive the compensation they deserved 7 years ago." Lena's eyes widened. "How much?" "All of it," Adrian said. "My entire trust fund. It's not enough to bring them back, but it's enough to make their fight matter. Adrian, that's millions of dollars. Blood money," he said quietly. "I'd rather be poor and honest than rich and complicit." She reached out, her hand brushing his. "You know this doesn't fix everything," she whispered. "I can't forget who your family is or what they did." "I'm not asking you to forget," he said. "I'm asking you to let me prove that I'm not them." Her voice trembled. "And how will you do that?" Adrian smiled faintly. "I was hoping you might help me figure that out." Lena looked at him, this man who had given up everything for the chance to earn her trust. He wasn't the same person who had spilled coffee on his suit. That man had been charming, hollow, defined by privilege. This man was something else entirely. Someone willing to rebuild himself from the ashes of truth. "I can't promise to love you," she said quietly. "I can't promise to forgive your family." "I'm not asking for promises," Adrian said. "Just a chance." She hesitated, thinking of her parents, of 7 years of anger and grief. Then she nodded once. "A chance. Sounds fair." 6 months later, Lena Evans stood before a packed congressional hearing room. Microphones, cameras, reporters. The weight of 7 silent years pressing on her shoulders. She took a deep breath. "This isn't just about one company," she said. "Clearly, this is about accountability, about families who lost everything while corporations profited from their pain." Her hands trembled, but her voice didn't. Behind her sat Adrian Hayes, now in a simple grey suit. No bodyguards, no entourage. Just a man who had chosen to start again. Members of Congress leaned forward. One asked, "Miss Evans, what evidence do you have that Hayes Industries knowingly suppressed these reports?" Lena nodded to her left. "Mr. Hayes can answer that better than I can." Gasps rippled through the chamber as Adrian rose. "Mr. Hayes," the congressman said, You are the son of Charles Hayes, the CEO of the company under investigation, correct?" "Yes," Adrian said evenly. "And I've come to testify against my father's company." Flashbulbs exploded. Reporters shouted questions. But Adrian just raised his hand for silence. "My father believed progress was worth any cost. He was wrong. Daniel Evans was right. And I am here today to make sure his work isn't buried again." He placed a stack of binders on the table, thousands of pages of hidden reports, emails, and legal documents. "These," he said, "are the files my father ordered destroyed. They prove Hayes Industries violated environmental laws and silenced those who tried to stop it." He paused, voice heavy. "My father taught me how to build an empire. Lena Evans taught me what it means to be human." The room was silent. Even the cameras seemed to hold their breath. When the hearing adjourned, the story flooded every headline in the country. CEO, heir exposes father in historic whistleblower testimony. Hayes Industries faces federal investigation. Lena Evans, daughter of the fallen inspector, leads the fight for reform. Protests followed. Then arrests. And eventually, justice. Charles Hayes was charged with obstruction and corporate negligence. Melissa Grant and several board members resigned. For the first time, truth outweighed wealth. Months later, the old Hayes Industries headquarters became something new. A glass plaque shimmered under morning light. The Daniel and Grace Evans Center for Environmental Justice. Inside, students studied renewable engineering. Former employees volunteered. And in the lobby, a photograph of Daniel and Grace smiled down on the world they had dreamed of. Outside, Lena stood beside Adrian. He was thinner now, a little tired, but his eyes carried peace. "You did it," Lena said quietly. "You kept your promise." He smiled, faintly. "No, we did. You were the voice. I was just the echo trying to make it louder." She looked at him for a long time, the man who had once been her enemy, now her ally. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked. "Walking away from everything?" Adrian thought for a moment, watching the sun rise over the city. "I lost a company," he said softly, "but I found a conscience." Ryan and Ellie approached, hand in hand. Ryan signed playfully, "You two still giving interviews, or do we finally get lunch?" Lena laughed. "Lunch sounds perfect." Adrian nodded. "As long as it's not at Harmony Cafe," Ryan grinned. "Too many reporters, too many memories," Adrian replied. "Good memories," Ryan signed. "Hard-earned ones." Lena smiled. "He's right. Every scar is a story." Adrian took her hand gently. "Then let's make the next story a peaceful one." As they walked away, the camera lingered on the plaque. They fought for a better world. Now, others would continue that fight together.